If you're enjoying Pigoted Podcast, then why not sign up to our Patreon? You can find it at patreon.com/pigoted, and on there you get loads of extra benefits, such as early access to episodes. You get access to Pigoted Extra, which is extra content from our guests, usually about 45 minutes to an hour long of extra content every single week. You get merchandise, you get to ask questions, you get to be part of our Discord community. We have a Discord server where people chat and ask questions and discuss topics that have been brought up on the podcast. You get all that through Patreon, and it starts from just £3 a month. Plus, you'll be supporting the podcast. You'll be helping the podcast to grow, helping us to fund bigger and better guests and to pay for all the editing and that kind of thing. So please, if you are enjoying Pigoted, then think about signing up and becoming a Patreon from just £3 a month over at patreon.com/pigoted. Welcome to another episode of Pigoted Podcast. Joining me this week is comedian Sam Avery. Hi.
Hi.
And joining me as our expert is the wonderful Kat Ford. Hi, Kat.
Hello.
Kat, what is your area of expertise?
I am an evolutionary psychologist.
What the fuck is an evolutionary psychologist?
It's basically looking at human behaviour through the lens of Darwinian evolution and sort of going, oh, well, why do we do that then?
You know you're in trouble when you only understand 2/3 of the explanation.
Yeah.
You know, when you hear Darwinian and you go, oh, fuck, and then she said 4 extra words. You're like, oh, catch up, shit. We've had Kat on several times before. For people who are Patreons of the podcast, which you can do by going to patreon.com/pigoted. Fuck, I can't even get the plug right. You can hear Kat did the pilot episodes for us. We have 3 pilot episodes that we recorded. One was on whether or not human beings will ever outgrow the idea of religion. One was on the evolutionary science behind female orgasms, and one was on costly signal theory. So, yeah.
3 areas that I am not an expert in, so I'm glad I was not invited for those episodes.
Mate, well, we had Rob Mulholland on for the orgasm one, and he doesn't know shit about that either. So. He thought women smoked, from the fanny.
Oh, wow.
That's what he thought. He thought they gave off smoke signals.
Like a George Foreman grill. Just bubbling away.
That's why there's 2 flaps. You put the sausage in the middle.
And there's a little tray for the juices.
It's lovely to be here, and as an evolutionary comedian, which is a term I've just invented just now.
Okay.
It feels like it's the right episode. I don't even know what that would mean.
Define an evolutionary comedian.
It means, the only thing I can think of is, you know, that diagram of the cavemen and the development from like chimp to human. And then at the end, you've got me, which is slightly grandiose, isn't it, really? To think that I am the pinnacle of human evolution.
Only slightly.
Yeah, only slightly. Perhaps I should have...
That image, it's a really lovely image, very well recognised, but it's kind of... I think that's part of the reason why people don't always understand how evolution works, because it makes it look like it's a linear thing of like, oh, the caveman turned into that one and then that one, where it's like it's much more like a family tree. It's not a linear thing.
Yeah, because sometimes you go off on mad little tangents that go nowhere and then come back again.
That's what I would be fascinated about, because I'm always more fascinated in failure than success.
That makes sense as a comedian.
Because I've had a lot of it. But
there's his career so far.
Yeah, I'm loving my career. Let's put it that way. But there's a museum in America called the Museum of Failure, and it just shows like all these inventions that failed. But I'd be fascinated to know about evolutionary developments that, like you say, didn't go anywhere, didn't then evolve beyond that, and just stopped like a stump. So, like, because they must be fascinating and ultimately useless.
Well, it doesn't necessarily mean that they've failed. It's just that perhaps the environment's changed and that's why they've gone extinct. Because, like, dinosaurs were knocking around for a fucking long time. They didn't fail, but they just got twatted by an asteroid, which is kind of out of their control. And then there's other species that haven't changed haven't changed much in a very long time. Crocodiles being a good example.
I was going to say crocodiles.
Crocodiles.
In my head, I thought crocodiles, and I thought, don't say it because she's smarter than you. Let her come up with the example. And then you said crocodiles, but then I wanted to have credit for the fact that we both thought the same thing. Crocodiles.
Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, because they just fit their ecological niche. They do what they need to do, and yeah.
Do you know what's dead mad about?
Needed.
What's dead mad about crocodiles? And you see it loads when like loads of mad Australians jump on them and shit. So their jaws, when they bite down, can like literally bite through fucking bone and flesh like it's butter. Do you know what I mean? The bite down force is massive, but the jaw coming up for us. Like, there's people who put rubber bands over their mouths, and the crocodile's like, I'm fucked, mate. I'm absolutely a small rubber band. How did you know my one weakness? And I just find that crazy that they've never needed it, have they? Because there's no fish in the wild that have been to Staples.
There's no fish that turn up and just go, shh.
Yeah. Little tiny fins. Quiet now. Quiet.
Chickens as well, aren't chickens? Like, have they remained quite unchanged for a while?
No, they are pterosaurs, I think, which is and that family has been around. Like, I think T-Rex was a pterosaur.
What?
So they've changed.
Wow. So T-Rex and chickens are from the same fucking family?
Basically, yeah.
No.
So Colonel Sanders would have been chasing a T-Rex around, just trying to get him into breadcrumbs.
Basically. And there's good reasons to think that some dinosaurs might have been feathery, which kind of takes the scary edge off them. Well, no, I was going to say it takes the scary edge off them, but like a 30-foot chicken, you'd still shit yourself.
I heard somewhere, and you're probably going to tell me that this is bollocks now, as is customary on this podcast. What happens is I have bits of knowledge that float around in my head, and I push them out of my mouth, and some expert to the right of me goes, no, that's bullshit, and I have to reevaluate my life. So I heard that we don't actually know for certain what colours dinosaurs were. We just have to just guess.
Yeah, well, because that doesn't fossilize.
So technically, I mean, it's unlikely, but T-Rexes could have been like bright pink.
Yeah, they could be.
Or stripy, black and white, like big zebras.
Oh my God, that would have been amazing.
Big angry.
Do you know what? The fucking what's it called? The era of dinosaurs. The Jurassic, prehistoric. Paleontologist.
The olden days.
The olden days.
They were around during the Jurassic
Park,
Cretaceous, and
Mesoic. But I'll just be quiet.
Something else. I need to go through my little mnemonic to remember.
What I was going to say is that those periods could have been far more camp and fabulous than what we are led to believe in history books.
Yeah, like jazz hands and everything.
Loads of feathers
and
and pink and stripes. Mesozoic.
Yeah, well, the other thing about dinosaurs that always blows my mind a bit is that the time between like the early dinosaur era and dinosaurs not being around anymore, that's a bigger gap than between end of dinosaurs and us.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Like, dinosaurs were around for a long time.
Yeah, they weren't
that's crazy. I have hard enough figuring out that there was a bigger gap between now and Oasis' second album than Oasis' second album and the Beatles' last album. So what you've just said, I think I'm going to have a little lie down for it.
I'm at the point now where there are people who are 16, 17, 18 that are younger than films that I went to the cinema to see. Do you know? And it's just fucking mind-blowing that there's people going, oh, The Sixth Sense was around before I was born. And you go, don't fucking say those words to me. Do you know what I mean?
And get out my bath.
As part of the PhD I'm doing, I had to do a bit of graduate teaching assistant stuff. And there was one year I went in and all these like first year psychology students are there, and I suddenly thought, most of you were born after 9/11. I was like, fuck,
Which
I'm
means
old.
you're all innocent.
You missed a cracking day on the news. There was so much to watch.
Do you know what? I was doing, I was coming home from school when that happened. I was listening to it in the car. Didn't really understand what the Twin Towers were. But then I had to go and do my paper round afterwards. Yeah. And I was doing my paper round, and a guy was at his door, got the paper, and he looked at it, and then he said to me, is there anything in here about the Twin Towers? And I went, no, because it's just happened, and these were printed this morning. And he went, like it was my fault. Yeah. And I just remember that clear as fucking day.
And that man invented the internet. After that was Steve Jobs.
Jack Dorsey founded Twitter. He thought there's got to be a solution. Oh, fucking hell. Here's a question for you, and this is the question that we wanted to speak to, sort of focus on today, is when you look at people, Sam, when you look at people's faces, Do you make judgments about them based on their face?
All the time. Yeah, all the
Such
time.
as?
I judge a class. I'll judge
Class? Well, like working or middle or upper?
I'm saying I'll judge. A lot of these are like low rumbling judgments, and I don't act upon the judgments, or at least I tell myself I don't act upon them. And I certainly don't vocalize these judgments, because I think there's a big thing is people say, well, I don't judge anyone, but I think as humans, we all judge on some level. It's whether we choose to treat someone differently or whether we choose to talk to them differently, which I would hope I wouldn't. But I'd certainly... You make assumptions, don't you, about someone's personality. I suppose the longer I look at someone, that sounds a bit creepy the way I've said that. the longer I look at someone, the more likely they're going to wake up, isn't it? But the longer I look at someone, like on like a train journey or a bus journey.
It's still creepy.
Still creepy. Yeah, but I won't be like staring at them longingly. Not anymore. But I used to, if you glance at someone and then glance at them again, or you see them doing something, you start to form a kind of hypothesis.
I do the same thing all the time, where I don't think I stare at them. Again, this is going to sound equally as creepy, but what I do is I try and drink them in. As people.
Sounds worse.
You say just as creepy, much worse.
I just try and sniff them.
Before COVID, I'd lick them.
Herbal essences. No. What it is I try and sort of get a sense of them as people.
Yeah.
And I don't think I make massive judgments based on face. I do it a lot more based on how people just act and carry themselves. So that for me is like a big thing for me is how people close doors.
Right, okay. In what way?
So how people open and close doors, I make judgments on their personality. So if you're somebody who opens and closes a door like they are, you know those people who do it with almost a reckless abandon, and they open a door and they almost take it off its fucking hinges and they slam it back. I go, well, that's a really confident, almost bullish person.
Yeah.
And then there's other people that open doors almost apologetically. Like they open a door and they're like, I'm so sorry, door, for disturbing you, but I need to get through. And those people, I always find them more empathetic.
I tend to be quite apologetic when I'm opening doors, but usually because I've been stood there pushing a pull for 5 minutes.
I make assumptions about those people as well. And go, well, those people don't have enough going on up here.
It's interesting what you say about the way someone acts, because I would probably have put that into the same category as someone's face. So the way the face acts, the way the face moves, the way they're kind of... Like another example is... if you find someone attractive, it's not necessarily how they look. It's the aura around them, and it's how they act and how they move. And
I get that.
Perhaps that is conflated with how someone looks, but I think that's a really interesting thing that you say.
Do you know
about
what?
that.
I think men and women are process attraction differently. So I think that with men, there's much more of an objective level about what is and isn't attractive amongst men, I think, on the whole. Whereas with women, I think that they are into a total variety of different... Like there's so many women I know that go, oh, he's not my type, is Tom Hardy. He's not... I've never known a man to go, oh, Scarlett Johansson, she's just not my type.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a really good thing for men, because I've got mates who've got like really hot wives, because the wives have said, oh, I just love his scars on his face. You know what I mean? I love the fact his ears are all fucked up from rugby. Like, that's attractive to some.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a trait?
Apparently, yeah. I mean, there was a girl once who was obsessed with me because she loved my hands. She didn't find me facially attractive. Thought I had really nice hands.
Really?
I don't even think I do, but I've not done a proper date.
Oh, mate, you'd be knee-deep in foreplay for the rest of your life with that kind of turn on, wouldn't you?
Yeah, oh, God, yeah, just like rub it again. Keep rubbing it, slap it. Yeah. Might start OnlyFans, I think that's the
like a human scratch card. Surely, Catford, surely there is a evolutionary advantage in looking at people and making snap judgments about them based on what they are, like what they look like or what they are doing.
Theoretically, yes. So there's one of the judgments that we might make about people is whether they look aggressive or not. And that's a pretty important thing to judge about a person quite quickly. And like, does that look like a kickoff merchant? Do I need to avoid them?
Do you know what? I see my dog doing that all the fucking time.
expand on that.
So I've got a little Jack Russell, right? And I don't know if this is important, but I'm going to add it. He has epilepsy.
All right.
So he's a bit mental, and also Jack Russells are generally a bit mental. But I see my dog looking at other dogs, thinking, "Oh, are you gonna fight me?" Like, and I can just sort of like they pick up on each other's vibes. I don't know what it is about it, but he definitely does do that. And you're looking at me with the level of skepticism that tells me that I'm wrong.
No, I'm just thinking like, well, one, there's a huge amount of anthropomorphism there, like, because it might just be dog going, oh, another dog, like
another dog here in the park.
Two leg, four leg. What? I've got four leg. I'm weird. Like, I always think when I see small children like looking at each other, I always like to think they're going, "Oh, you're small too. I'm small. Like everyone else is really big, but you're small."
Yeah.
Oh. Like I like to imagine that's
my
what
people.
they're thinking.
Yeah.
Someone told me, I read it somewhere and I believe that it's correct, is that dogs know that humans aren't like them, but they choose to sort of hang around with us anyway. And I think that's really sweet.
It's interesting. A lot of stuff like that. It's like, okay, but how are we testing that? Like, you can't do a questionnaire on a dog. Like, there's a lot of assumptions going on there.
Well, all this talk about
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
all the talk about dogs though, looking for like-minded dogs, or dogs that will protect them. Or if that comes down to evolution, my question is, why will a dog fuck a cushion? if they're looking for a dog's got to tickle, I don't want him to be too aggressive, and he's got to have nice eyes, but like, oh, that cushion's, and I want my whole family to watch me while I'm doing it.
I got my dog a teddy from Build-A-Bear, right?
Yeah.
I got it from... now, just before we get started, I need to put caveats into this. Number one, I did not build the bear myself.
Okay.
The bear was already pre-built.
You only added the hole.
How big is your smallest fleshlight?
Do you have any GIMP masks?
Dog sex shops, I think, is a market that's
dog
untapped.
sex shops
Yeah.
at work, Do you know what? We're actually sponsored by Taylor's Toys, which is a sex toy company. You get 10% off if you visit and put the code PIGOTED in there. Yeah, they could do... Although, having said that, though, from time to time, right, occasionally, human beings might eat food meant for dogs or something like that. Could you imagine... taking that to its extreme, using a dildo and being like, that's the dog's.
The dog's dildo. Yeah. Don't know where that's been. It's been in nowhere.
Yeah, it's the dog's fleshlight, that, mate. I'm really sorry. If you look
fit perfectly.
If you look on the side, there's a paw. That's how. Oh, mate, I'm so sorry.
Me and my dog have the same taste in women.
But yeah, I think that's a market. I mean, I don't think it's enough to go on Dragon's Den with quite.
Call it Give a Dog a Bone.
Oh, what a fucking
Someone write
name.
that down.
Touch. Right there. Yeah. You deserve that. That's superb. So yeah, you, evolutionarily wise...
I'm just thinking this is going to bit off the rails.
Oh, yeah, it's good. Well, this is the thing with this podcast. It's more about the journey than the destination. The destination, inevitably, is us going... Oh, fair enough. But the journey,
which is very different to Fleshlight. That is completely about the destination.
No, I think it's completely about the journey, because the destination of Fleshlight is you've come.
Yeah.
But then, that's it. That's the end.
Yeah.
No, it's not the end. Then you've got to clean the flashlight.
Well, that's it. So the destination.
Okay.
Is shame.
That's shame and jet wash.
That's true with any wank.
Where the journey is, well, this is great. I've got a flashlight.
I've never.
Do you not know about this? Okay,
you've got one.
Let's jump into this. Right, so, so the people that sponsor this podcast, Taylor's Toys, they reached out to me via Instagram. And they said, hi, like your content or whatever. They said, we would like to send you a Valentine's Day gift box. And I thought that, it'd be one dildo and some lube. Do you know what I mean? And I wasn't really in the market for a dildo, but the working class lad in me never refuses anything if it's free. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't need to shove anything up my arse today, but who knows what 6 months' time may bring. So I was like, yeah, send me your box, right? And I thought, again, one dildo, maybe some lube max. They sent me 180 quid's worth of sex toys, right? They sent me some bondage tape, some red bondage tape. They sent me a medium-sized butt plug, which is great because it means they looked at me and went, he's not a small. Do you know what I mean? Like,
but also he's not been bummed senseless.
Yeah.
So it's not a large.
But he is 18 stone. There's no, given how much he must shit a day, there's no way that he has tiny little rabbit poos. Get him a medium. They got me a dildo, but it was like the best dildo in the world. So it's like fucking carbon fiber.
Carbon fiber dildo, so it goes faster.
Yeah.
What?
It's made by Formula One teams. like a wind tunnel with aerodynamics and loads of nerds with clipboards going, change that. Yeah, it's literally, it's posh, right? It's like Terminator's dick. That's what it fucking looks like. And then they got me a fleshlight as well, right? And I was really curious about a fleshlight because I've never used a fleshlight before. But I was like, I'll give it a go. So I got myself primed to use it. I got myself erect and I slowly slid. I got a bit of lube and sort of, you know, and I stuck it onto my dick, stone cold inside.
Oh no!
It's stone cold, and it put me off. It like instantly took it off. I was like, "That's gross," right? And the Taylor's Toys, they messaged me and they were like, "How's everything going with your sex box?" Which was weird, but whatever. And I said, like, it threw me a bit because it's cold inside, and they were like, "Oh, well, why don't you put it in the microwave?" And I was like, because that feels like the kind of thing that you need to get right first time. Because you could burn your bell end to smithereens.
I'm just thinking if you use it multiple times and like you don't clean it out properly and stick it in the microwave.
Oh,
I mean, there's microwaving fish at work and then there's that.
Yeah.
You know?
And microwaves are hard to
Who's
clean
been
at the
eating
best
cum?
So those things that you get, like those little cushions that you, for like, if you got a sore neck, you put them in the microwave for 20 seconds and you take them out. And sometimes they're too hot, but it's just your neck and you can take it out.
Yeah, whereas it would be on your dick.
What did you do? Did you go for it?
Well,
you
no,
could
because
finger it
well,
first.
this is it. I didn't like the idea of checking it like it was chicken, see if it had been cooked through or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So I've left it. But one of the other things that you can get as well is you don't have to put it in the microwave. Another thing that you can get, and they offered to send this to me, but I said no, is it looks like a ninja's sword. So you know how ninjas have got those swords that are like there's 3 spokes, there's 3 little spikes, and one of them's longer in the middle,
Okay, yeah.
and then the other 2 is slightly curved at the side.
Yeah.
It looks like that. But the middle spoke is ribbed like a kebab skewer, and you put that in the oven, and then you work your fleshlight onto your ninja sword, and then the middle thing heats up the middle.
That's
and then-
that's too much
That's a
dedication.
Mate,
That's
I'm not
preparation, innit?
I'm
That's
not
like-
preheating the oven every
Because-
time I want a wank. Do you know what I mean?
Because
Like-
having a wank is actually quite good fun on its own. It's great, isn't it? You don't need to kind of, you
Yeah,
know,
with
go
all this
through like
nonsense.
step 1, step 2, step 3, marinate the chicken, you know, all this other stuff. You just, you know, and then
nonsense.
What I would have recommended, and it's hard to know without knowing much about your fleshlight.
Yeah.
But what about boiling the kettle? Just like
Rinsing some water through it.
Yeah, fill it up, chuck it out. It's not going to get as hot as it would in the microwave, and it'll help sterilise it. There you go, give that a go, and let us know how it went.
Can you imagine the kettle boiling and your missus being like, "Oh, you're making a brew?"
Nope,
No.
having a wank.
I'm having a kettle wank.
Although
you know
why
me,
not?
darling.
Like, because it is nice to have a cup of tea after a wank.
Oh, mate.
So actually,
So, here's the thing, right? Boil the kettle, right? Get a PG Tips and stuff it deep inside
in
the
the
fleshlight.
fleshlight.
Pour the water through. That makes the fleshlight, and it also acts as a filtration system. You've got a lovely cup of tea and a wank, and perfect.
And then the
Not just
fleshlight
a
wouldn't
wank,
smell.
a
If you
nice
use
warm
peppermint
wank.
tea, it would smell beautiful afterwards, wouldn't it? Smell kind of salty, but also
Yeah. And if some of it stays in the fleshlight, make your dick smell nice as well.
everyone's a winner.
We are coming up with some great business ideas tonight.
Yeah, hello, dragons.
Fleshlight / flask.
For dogs.
Flasklight.
Flasklight.
For dogs. Oh, fucking hell. So back to what we were saying 40 minutes ago. You mentioned that there's an evolutionary advantage in looking at somebody and going, that's going to be aggressive, so I'm going to modify my behaviour accordingly. What sort of things do we look at as human beings and go, aggressive?
It's really difficult to say, like, oh, well, it's an eyebrow at a 30-degree angle. Like, we know that means evil.
Yeah.
It's really... So we make all of these, like, judgments, and we make them super quickly. So there have been some experiments where you show people an image of a face for less than 100 milliseconds and then ask them to say trustworthy or not trustworthy. And people will make those responses that quickly. And it's just automatic. But it's difficult to figure out how accurate those judgments are.
Right, okay.
So there's been one experiment where they've shown people pictures of faces and asked them to fill out the Ocean Personality Questionnaire on behalf of the person in the image.
So what is the Ocean Personality Questionnaire?
So it's one of the most robust psychological questionnaires.
Is this where Ocean, like, everything is an acronym and it stands for, like, overt, and, like, C is, like... Oh, really? Am I really close?
You're close.
Right.
So
Go on, keep going.
Go for. So you think O is overt?
Overt, calculation. No, not calculation. Certification.
Is it creating there
So
somewhere?
I'll give you a clue that each one of the letters stands for a different personality trait.
Oh, okay. So confident. That sounds like a personality.
That is a personality trait.
Okay. E, extrovert.
Yeah.
Androgynous.
Your personality to me seems to be neither male nor female. So talking about Ocean, O-C-E.
Nice.
A, I think. No.
That's a 9.
No, it's just faces.
Just faces.
There we go. We're doing stand-up comedy. I'd say. Part of me wants to say anxious, but I don't think anxiety is. I don't think that's right. Maybe. What about
Another clue. I'd say that
Altruistic.
anxious for your N.
Oh, neurotic. Okay.
So you've got one right.
Fuck. Holy shit! What could it possibly be? Go on, put us out of our misery. Put us out of our misery.
Okay, so it's openness. So that's
Openness is close, isn't it? Yeah.
open to new experiences and things like so. How like
So I'm guessing like somebody like Darren Brown would look for openness in terms of the people because he'd want.
potentially. I don't know much about what he does and how it works. I just know he does some weird stuff.
Yeah, but I imagine you'd need people that are like open to new experiences and how it works. Because if
Surely
you,
you'd get that more from just the face because you'd want to get a bit of sense of the personality as well.
yeah. Okay, so openness,
So openness, conscientiousness,
conscientiousness.
extroversion,
I was good
Yeah,
with
you
one
were
of them.
good.
I got one of them.
agreeableness,
Agreeableness, of course,
and
yeah.
neuroticism.
And neuroticism.
So
Right. Okay.
So and that's quite a stable like set of traits. Like people will tend to be about as neurotic throughout their entire lives, which
Yeah.
is horrible news for people like me. Like this is, I'm not going to calm down. This
really?
is it now.
So you never, because old dogs chill out. So, no.
Right. I don't know if anyone's ever explained this to you or not, but people and dogs are different.
No, I don't know why you even said that. I don't know. I felt this bizarre need to go, and I know a thing too. I felt like I needed to just prove that I know stuff. But it is true though. Old dogs chill the fuck out.
That's just because they're knackered, though, and
But
they haven't got
it's
the energy.
the difference between like so it's like are they calmed down or are they less neurotic?
So
Because
you-
neurotic's very much a psychological
So
trait.
you never really get more or less neurotic over time.
It might change a little bit, but throughout your lifetime,
By and large.
those ocean personality traits are reasonably stable.
So you're about as open now as you can be.
Where's this leading?
We're actually sponsored by John's Gynecology Clinic.
John's Gynecology Clinic. John is a cracking fella. If you've not met him, he's really trustworthy.
I couldn't think of anything.
Let John look at your cunt.
I couldn't think of anything off the top of my head, and I panicked with what must be the worst name for a gynecological clinic ever. John's. That's who's gonna be
Also, I'm quite offended that you've looked at me and went, vagina.
Yeah.
That is exactly the kind of nonsense
that's
that
me
women are trying to stop.
That's me cancelled now, isn't it? Fucking hell.
You know these personality traits in that ocean thing. So you're saying that people stay the same.
Thanks for getting me out of this.
Roughly throughout. Don't worry, mate. I've got your back. John's got your front. John's got your back.
That's the slogan.
This is more of a marketing seminar at the moment. But so how much? Because self-help books. The sales are through the roof, aren't they? Everyone's trying to improve themselves. Going to like Tony Robbins seminars, paying like $3,000 to go and see him for 3 days. People want to improve on these aspects, but you're saying that by and large, it's very difficult to change how you react to certain things.
Yeah, it's difficult to make any major changes.
Right.
Okay. Like, this is a really depressing one. Even your level of happiness is reasonably stable throughout your life. Like, there's been studies looking at people who have won huge amounts of money on the lottery or who have had like life-changing, devastating accidents, and like a year later, they're about average happy.
Really?
Like you just revert to.
Do you know
baseline.
what? I fucking hate those people that go, but I'll still work. I'll still work.
Oh, right, okay. I couldn't figure out which one of the two you were talking about then. I was like...
Yeah, actually, that's quite inspiring for one group, isn't it? I've lost my legs, but I'll still work. Fucking hate those people. Fucking bastards. What about the symmetrical face then? Because that's the big thing. You were talking about reacting to faces. I read years ago that a symmetrical face is more attractive to the opposite sex. But then I recently saw someone that said that Tom Cruise's face is very wonky. And obviously people find him very attractive.
Yeah, but his bank balance isn't, is it?
He's also
it's very wonky in one direction, his bank balance.
Yeah, he's also like 5'4", and like that's not particularly attractive either.
Not to me.
But he's dollared up, isn't he?
Well, so the facial symmetry thing, yes, like some highly symmetrical faces are considered to be very attractive. But like touching on what you were saying earlier about the idea of like people having different ideas of what attractive is, there's that kind of like objective attractiveness where you're like I can see Brad Pitt is a handsome man, but you're not necessarily like whoa every time you see him. Like that it's two slightly different things.
I don't think men have that. I genuinely don't.
You think it's like on or off, basically?
Yeah, I think men are much more objectively attractive, objectively not attractive. But I think also men have an inbuilt filter where they go, probably as good as I can do. so they go, she's not really fit, but I mean, look at me. Yeah. So, but I think that so in the same way that women, like, I don't like Tom Hardy is not my thing. I don't think any man says that about Scarlett Johansson or Megan Fox or other conventionally attractive women. Yeah. I think that they are just attractive.
Yeah.
And is that because, do we find other people attractive because we're trying to look for the best possible genes we can procreate with, or is that too simplistic?
Well, no, I think, as somebody who isn't an evolutionary biologist or a psychologist or knows anything, I think we are just surely aren't we programmed just to spread cum?
What, like a fertilizer truck? Just across fields of gaping.
What you want to do is you want to get somewhere really high. You want to get a good vantage point.
On a windy day.
Yeah, make sure the wind's passing like that.
Pick
Don't
your moments.
jizz into the wind.
Like flying a kite, you got to throw it up at the right moments.
And I'll tell you what, there's an awful lot of controversy at the moment about how many bees get stuck.
You're just getting fucking pasted to wind farms. Just poor little bees just jizz.
This smells of peppermint.
You imagine a bee coming back to the hive covered in jizz.
So, this is not good, honey, guys.
Honestly, just trying to do its little wiggle dance, communicate to all of its friends, don't go outside right now, because I don't know what's on me. But the Queen ain't going to fucking like it, I'll tell you that much for free. Oh, shit.
Bee bukkake?
khaki. Okay. This has been very sex-led, hasn't it, this podcast?
Going all over the place, this. Right, wait. So, I don't want to go too much into human mating behaviour because I know there's somebody you might be getting on a later podcast who, like, that's their thing. They know a lot about it.
Okay, we'll shelve it to one side then.
Yeah. But generally with human mating, there's it's like a tug of war to some extent. Like
it is in our house. Oh,
to mate to you.
I tie a rope around
I don't know why I
me
went
waist.
for Chuckle Brothers.
We do it over a canal.
Oh, imagine the Chuckle Brothers wanking each other off.
I mean, I already was, but no.
Chuckle lost the vision because it did it too much and turned blind.
This is supposed to be educational. We just lost it.
That's why I called it bigoted and not educational.
So when you're like procreating, there's like lots of cost benefit calculations you kind of have to do. So for men, one of the calculations is like, do I want a lot of kids? Or do I want a few kids that I will invest my time and energy in and make sure that they grow up? And
Shout out to all the dads of more than 3 kids there that just got fucking burnt. How many have you got?
I've got 2, and I didn't want 2. So yeah. Well, no, I suppose there's another category who have loads of kids and put no effort into any of them.
Yeah, that's your quantity over quality kid strategy.
That's fascinating. That I've never thought of that before.
My dad is one of 8. And they defo gave up after the 3rd one. They defo gave up, and by the end they were just like, sort each other out.
Yeah.
Sort it. You'll learn from your brother, so you will. You know.
There's so much love we've all got to give. Like, by the 4th, 6th kids, you'd just be feeding them from the bin, wouldn't you? I need a bath. Well, he's falling in the canal. He'll be all right. Someone will pull him out. But that's always the thought that it's been on my mind about, like, why. Because someone was telling me once about, is it orangutans or gorillas? They have these really big testicles. Or
that's always been on your mind.
It'll be
always on my mind.
chimpanzees.
First thing when I wake up, last thing before I go to bed.
Chimpanzees
I've got my Fleshlight on. I'm thinking
chimpanzees
about that.
have got so of us chimpanzees, gorillas, and orangutans. Chimpanzees have the biggest bollocks. Gorillas are actually quite small. Like, they've got quite small bollocks. They're much more faithful. They're much more monogamous than, like, chimpanzees, especially bonobos. They'll fuck anything.
Yeah,
and they've just got these massive balls, like, full of jizz to spread it all around. But, gorillas are, like, are much more faithful. They'll keep mating with the same partner.
So they have to be more choosy because they've got less sizable bollocks.
It's hard to know which direction it went in. So whether it's a case of, so a chimpanzee shagging everything, it's like, well, I need more juice here. And so then they get bigger bollocks. Yeah. Or whether it's they've gone, these are big, I'm going to have a time emptying these. Like, it's like
boil the kettle up. So if I was...
That's why chimpanzees used to sponsor PG Tips.
Yeah.
We've cracked it. We've figured that out.
So if I was locked in a cage with a gorilla and he came towards me with an erect gorilla penis, would I be...
How would you notice if a gorilla came towards you? You wouldn't look and go, listen, he's got a semi.
No, honestly, whenever I'm locked in a cage with someone and they approach me, I first check the junk to see if what's going to happen. You're trying to survive.
Friend or foe?
Friend or foe, exactly. Because what kind of friend and what kind of foe? Yeah. But if I look down and I see this big, massive gorilla cock coming towards me, would I be right to think it's all right because he's probably not going to mate with me because he has to be choosy, and I'm clearly not a sexy gorilla lady, despite the rumours.
What if he bummed you and didn't come?
Oh God!
What if he just bumped you?
Oh God!
Just to get in your head, and then just left.
Well, at least I could hold my head high and go, well, I might have been raped by a gorilla, but at least he didn't come, so I wasn't completely defiled. I kept my dignity.
Right? Because you know how like gorillas and like chimpanzees and humans are like close relations to humans, whatever. In the same way that we look at humans and we make those assumptions based on, how they, we make those facial assumptions. Is this friendly? Is this aggressive? Can we do the same thing to gorillas and chimpanzees? Do they exhibit similar?
I don't know. That's not something I've ever looked at, like how good we are at judging chimpanzee
I
personalities.
feel like science needs to get on that shit.
Interesting thing. Well,
Put Sam in a cage.
I don't know everything.
Put Sam in a cage, 5 gorillas, and he has to accurately predict which one's going to bum rape him.
That sounds like a dating show on Channel 5. Put me down for that. I'm up for that. As long as the risk is low, I'm willing to take the risk. For humanity.
If it makes you feel any better, I would totally watch it every week. I'd tune into that.
So this is another tangent, but humans are ludicrously cooperative. Like it's for a bunch of apes. Weird. It's weird how cooperative we are. If you did try and get 2 silverback gorillas that had never met each other before and put them in a room, it would be fucking mayhem. Like they would kill each other. But you sat in a room with 3 blokes. I'm not going to try and figure out which one of you is the alpha male. Let's assume you're all equal. And you just sat having a nice chat.
We're all thinking it ourselves now. Yeah. We're all fucking thinking it ourselves.
I'm looking at Carl.
But yeah, like if you try to do this,
it's my podcast. What the fuck is this? Bullshit.
Yeah, if you try to do this with chimpanzees, one, like the conversation would be like harder to follow.
I think easier, to be honest.
Possibly.
Be more informative.
It'd be less talk of fleshlights.
They won't be talking about fucking boiling a kettle to fuck a fleshlight.
Yeah. But yeah, they just rip the shit out of each other. And yet, if you look at commercial aircraft, the amount of men in a small space together for a long period of time, no escape. Very few murders, really.
To be honest, you are onto something. Like, that is true.
And it is a thing, yeah.
How is that not the success of us as a species, though, that we don't spend time ripping the fuck out of each other?
It's one of the things that has really helped humanity. It's the level of cooperation that we're able to achieve.
Are there certain things that human beings look at and go, that person's aggressive, that person's not? Because we talked about like facial bias and when you look at somebody, what you're picking out. Now, I know, obviously, that if you look at somebody and their eyebrows are like this and their mouth is snarled, then you know that they are probably aggressive. But are there other little things like their eyes being close together or...
Well, again, it's really difficult to accurately measure like facial appearance and how that maps onto personality, which is one of the problems with like certain AI projects. Like there was one a few years ago where this guy was like, I've made a computer that can tell whether someone's gay just by looking at their face. And it's like...
An actual gaydar?
Yeah. Doesn't work at all.
No.
Because it couldn't possibly, because...
It's looking for someone doing this. Like some kind of, stereotypical...
Elton John in a box.
Yeah.
Elton John in an R2-D2 thing.
Yeah.
Because the information that you feed into that algorithm is going to be biased.
Yeah.
Because you're only going to feed it images of faces of people whose sexuality you know.
Yeah, totally. So it's going to look for Judge Rinder and like fucking, what's he called, Liberace and fucking... It's going to be the gayest people that you can to feed into the algorithm.
It's not going to learn how to spot somebody who is gay but not out.
Like dormant.
Dormant.
Yeah.
Not being activated yet.
No, I said dormant.
Oh, dormant.
No, I'm joking. Dormant. I know.
Yeah, so
because you don't know to plug that into the machine, do you?
And so that's one of the things that's a big problem when you look at how facial prejudices affect the criminal justice system.
Oh.
Because you will make guilty judgments about people, like based on their facial appearance. I'm gonna row back a bit. I'm gonna explain to you like an experiment I did.
Oh yes.
So me and my supervisor, we made some computer generated composite faces. So you get 3 blokes, feed those pictures of them into a computer, and the computer makes loads of little measurements of how the face looks, blends it together. So you get a brand new face that looks like a believable human face, but doesn't look like any one specific person.
Okay.
Then you can manipulate the face in certain ways. So you can make it more masculine or more feminine. And we, as well as making them masculine or feminine, we made them more or less agreeable. So for every one original face, we ended up with 4 faces of different types.
On different degrees, if you like.
Different
just scales?
A sort of, this is a masculine agreeable face, this is a feminine agreeable face.
Yeah.
This is masculine disagreeable, this is feminine disagreeable.
Okay.
So ended up with a load of these images, and I did an online survey where I presented a face along with just a short statement saying, like, on the 26th of June, 2013, John Cotton was arrested for actual bodily harm assault on Bold Street, Liverpool. Do you think he was found guilty? Like, he will appear in court on this date. Do you think he was guilty?
Okay.
And then my participants went either, yeah, guilty, or no, not guilty. What face the individuals... And they did that 12 times with 3 different crime types. So we did assault, burglary, and rape.
Yeah.
With these different faces. And which face the participants saw made a huge difference on whether the participants said guilty or not guilty.
So remind me of the different types again there were.
So it was feminine agreeable, feminine disagreeable, masculine agreeable, masculine disagreeable.
So if I had to guess, I would say masculine disagreeable would be guilty and feminine agreeable would be not guilty. Is that right?
Yeah. Basically, so the feminine disagreeable and the masculine disagreeable were getting the higher amount of guilty verdicts. The agreeable faces were getting lower.
That's interesting. I would have thought that there would be something more about masculine side of things.
A lot of people do. And there's been research on it that has suggested that people see masculine faces as more likely to be guilty of a crime. But there's a problem with a lot of that research in that if you associate masculinity with aggressiveness and you look at a face and you're asked to say how masculine it is, you might say masculine when what you're actually seeing is aggression.
Oh,
so
I see.
that data gets
Which
really
is
murky.
The big thing about, certainly last year and the year before, the big thing about toxic masculinity being a problem, which, it is in certain areas, but that gets confused with masculinity being a problem.
Yes. Yeah.
Masculinity isn't a problem. Put toxic in front of anything and it becomes a problem. Toxic soup is a problem, but soup is all right.
Hashtag not all soup.
Not all soup. Not all soup. But I think that masculinity, a lot of these things have kind of been, you put extra words, verbs in front of them, and it becomes very, very, different to what the original thing is.
Yeah. But yeah, the people do have this association between masculinity and aggressiveness. So one of the things that we did with our experiment is, there are different ways you can make a face more or less masculine. You can either get a load of faces that other people have said, that's a masculine face, I see that as masculine, and kind of drag the face more towards that. Or you can just get pictures of a load of blokes, let the computer make measurements, and average that out, and that's your masculine face. When you manipulate the face towards what people say, I think that's masculine, you end up with a slightly more aggressive face.
Really?
Whereas if you just do it on morphological masculinity, it's just more masculine.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we did with that experiment is we collapsed those 4 types into just masculine and just feminine, and ran the data again. No significant difference.
Oh.
That masculinity, femininity was not having an impact on people's guilty verdicts, but the agreeableness was.
Do you know what I heard about? This is sort of similar, about what they do to people in court to make them look more innocent, is they dress them in bigger, baggier clothes to make them appear more childlike. And so that has the connotation of being innocent. It's a thing in America.
You put them in a baby grow. Give them a rattle.
And in other news, OJ turned up to court today. OJ turned up to court in a diaper and a fucking rattle.
I'm just picturing George Dawes from Shooting Stars now.
Oh, mate. Imagine Harvey Weinstein in a baby grow. Although he did turn up to court. Although he did wear a baby grow.
He probably did.
He did turn up to court with his little fucking stick, didn't he, to garnish sympathy.
It wasn't like one of those like Zimmer frame things at one point, wasn't it?
I had to use a Zimmer frame for a brief amount of time when I did my back in, and I looked fucking ridiculous.
I bet you looked innocent though, didn't you?
Oh, and that's how I got away with all the crimes.
Well, the thing is, so having a baby face will get you a lot of leeway.
As opposed to having a baby's face in a bag, which is a very different thing.
Having sort of like just quite a childlike babyish face.
Yeah. Big eyes.
Yeah, big eyes, big fod, you know, that.
Why Solskjaer's
like
stayed at
chubby
United for so
little
long.
Big fod. Big fod.
Babies have big fods.
They do have big fods, babies, don't they? Why?
Because they haven't got any hair. I don't know. Well, because I don't know.
I
But
think
they
a
have
lot
got
of the
big
bones
fods.
haven't developed yet in the head, have they?
Oh yeah,
So
they have
can come
squishy
out.
heads sometimes, don't they?
Yeah, and they always have big eyes because your eyes don't really change size. It's the rest of your face that grows
Unless you
around
take
it.
ecstasy and then they get massive. You were talking about the masculine and the feminine and what people's perceptions are at the start of that experiment anyway. And I was wondering if that was to do with the fact that most prisoners are male. Prisons are more populated by men. And therefore, and a lot of those men, whether they went into prison like that or not, from spending 5 to 10 years in prison, you're going to look a bit rough. You're going to look a bit scary because you're probably just having a shit life. And that's our image of what a prisoner and therefore someone who's guilty is. So whether it's masculine and aggressiveness or whether it's just our preconception of what a prisoner looks like.
Wouldn't we have had that predisposition since before prisons? So
Maybe.
I imagine like back... Am I starting to think like an evolutionary psychologist now?
Kind of, yeah.
Yay!
It's
I feel really happy with myself.
That's one of the things with like evolutionary psychology is teasing apart like whether, okay, is this social influence? And one of the ways that you'll do that is you'll repeat your experiment in as many different cultures as possible. So they'll have different social norms. And if the same trait turns up all of those in all those different places, it might be an evolutionary trait. It might also just be the byproduct of an evolutionary trait that just always turns up.
Hang about a minute. So do people in, say, for example, China, look and see aggression differently than people do in, like, Britain?
I don't think so. So there was an experiment looking at, I think it was eye size and trustworthiness ratings in England and Japan. And larger, more open eyes are generally considered to be more trustworthy.
Yeah,
that's one of
get
the
on
few
board with
things
that.
that you can sort of pinpoint like that's a thing.
Yeah, but I mean, I wonder what the reason for that is. It just is a thing.
Possibly. So it might be something that's referred to as the overgeneralization effect, where so we make character judgments about people with baby faces. One of the things that we'll judge them as incompetent.
Really?
We make childlike associations about a person with a baby face, even if they're an adult. And this can play out even in like small claims court. So
No.
yeah. If somebody with a sort of baby face is accused of something that involves intentional malice, they're less likely to be found guilty. If they're accused of something that involves incompetence,
Like a car accident.
They're more likely to be found guilty.
Really?
Wow. Yeah.
Imagine that. Imagine if fucking car insurance companies ever get wind of that. They'll be making you upload a picture of yourself. They'll be running it through algorithms and shit.
Yeah, which is why it's important
You've
to
got a baby
always...
face and a shit postcode.
£200 extra a week.
And you don't keep your car in a garage. Yeah. That's why I've grown a beard, to get cheaper car insurance.
One of the questions on the form should be, have you been asked for ID by an alcohol in the last 20 years?
Oh,
But
mate.
the thing
Do
is-
you know how they did Sheila's Wheels, which was car insurance just for women? Imagine if they did like car insurance just for people that don't have fucking baby faces. Haggard Dave's car insurance. I was always going to say Haggard John's then. I was going to say he's running the gynecology clinic and a fucking car insurance company.
Big Joe Stevens.
They call him Jontrepreneur because he's into everything, isn't he?
Yeah, I've lost my thread now.
So we were talking
fools.
about in small claims court, baby face.
Baby face.
Uh,
yeah, so that's the thing. Although we make all those judgments, like the accuracy isn't great. So there was a long-term study done on boys with baby faces, like from adolescence into adulthood.
I mean,
And
I would personally, before you get started, be very suspicious of anyone who volunteers to be part of that study. Like, I want to be a study of boys' baby faces. No. And we're double checking your CRB.
Boys with baby faces.
Okay.
So they are the study subject. It's not like, do you want to come look at babies' faces? Like, that's not the study. And so looking at, across a number of years, how those boys grow up and what happens in their lives. And even though we make these judgments of like people with baby faces are less intelligent, less competent, basically all the things, like more honest is one of the things that we'll judge baby faces as, more naive, like basically just childlike. When I think this was Zebowitz who did this study, she followed them across the lifespan. Adolescent boys with baby faces who are from sort of working class backgrounds are more likely to become criminals.
Yeah, I totally buy that. I totally buy that.
They're more like adult-faced counterparts.
They can get away with it.
Also, of those ones that do become delinquent, they commit more and worse crimes than boys that don't have baby faces. Sort of middle, upper classes, they are more likely to go into the military, or baby-faced boys in general are more likely to go into the military. They're more likely to get promoted. They actually outperform in competence and intelligence. On average, they're more like adult-faced.
Really?
Yeah, so it's going in completely the opposite direction to what we assume based on the presence of a baby face.
Do you know what? I totally buy, though, the thing about working class families with baby-faced boys being criminals, because the amount of people that I know that are mates of mine that look like, especially at school, they look like butter wouldn't melt, and they were little knobheads.
Yeah,
Do you
there's
know
a
what I
lad
mean?
in my school, we'd pay him, and he'd go into Woolies and steal what you wanted. and you get it for like 5p, but he had this beautiful baby face.
Yeah, what he do is
Why not just go into the shop and pay the shopkeeper?
No, because so if it was 20p, he'd steal it for 5p, you see.
Yeah.
So you'd save a load of money.
And if you ever got caught, he'd look at you like the cat in Shrek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Puss in Boots, and he'd just do that. You go, get out of here, you little scamp.
But again, even those examples, is it a case of like there is a link between that kind of face and that kind of behaviour? Like something about having that face makes you naughty, like genetically? Or is it that people make these assumptions about you, so you try and prove them wrong, or you figure out the stuff I can get away with?
I think it's getting away with shit. I think it's getting away with stuff personally, because the amount of time, you never do anything wrong, and then they learn. They from my time teaching kids, the worst behaved children were always the ones whose parents could explain it away. Always, 100%. The kids whose parents were like, "What are you doing, you little shit?" They were never as bad as the ones that but David wouldn't do that.
Yeah, look at his cheeks. They're so rosy.
Chubby cheeks and his big fat head. Look at him.
I had a question in my mind, and what you've just said has actually not answered it, but almost made it. I'm more confused. Not that because what you said, but just because I was right. Let me start again. The question I had was, the sort of facial bias that we're talking about. Is there any evidence or any studies on people judging themselves through their own face?
Ooh.
And therefore either the self-fulfilling prophecy model or going against that? Because it seems like what you just talked about with people with baby faces more likely to high achieve or get promoted. The same way that the way we communicate our own feelings and emotions and desires and ambitions to ourselves is really important because it drives us or limits that drive. Does that facial bias have an impact on our own, how we view ourselves?
Do you know what? I don't know. There'll be like your own assessment of your own attractiveness will affect how you behave, but more detailed than that, I couldn't give you anything.
Do they do the same thing with fat people? So you know how like babyface, oh, you're dead young or whatever. I swear there was a thing in America or a thing in some country where they wouldn't hire, or there was a study done where they wouldn't hire fat people because they look and they go, well, you're probably lazy. And so, is that the same sort of thing?
It's the same sort of thing, yeah. Like people do make judgments based on like body type and things like that, but faces are the most important bit. Like,
really?
Yeah.
So even if you like are a big old fat heifer, you're enormously big.
Thank you for using if.
But if you've got like a beautiful face, like a very angelic, but I would never do such a thing because I'm a baby face, then that would override big fat heifer.
Yeah,
wow.
and it's even not just with like judgments of personality. Even with attractiveness ratings, faces are more important than overall body shape and structure.
What do they say about people with beards?
Do you know what? When I was getting ready for this podcast, I know he's going to ask me about his beard. I should look it up, and I didn't.
Did you not?
No.
I wonder what they'd... Do you know what I think untrustworthy would come in?
Possibly.
I don't think trustworthy comes with a beard.
Again, it's not...
Just keep all my secrets in my beard. Hello.
Can I interest you in a tiny dog fleshlight? Facial hair has an interesting relationship with the economy.
Carry on.
Men are more likely to grow beards when the economy's bad.
Really?
That does make sense.
Women wear shorter skirts when the economy's bad as well.
Really?
So it's not all bad. But that's true because beards have had something of a renaissance in the last 10 years, haven't they? And the economy has been shit.
Is that because, like, historically, is that because razors are expensive or something?
Historically? They still are.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, but
yeah.
back in the day, like in like the 1800s or whatever, then like it would have been more of a cost relation to your income coming in. Is it because of that? Because surely would that not mean as well that women shave less?
I don't know if there's been studies on that.
Look, why have you got such a hairy fanny? The economy.
Have you not seen the budget?
One hand.
The awful. What's with the short skirts with the economy?
I think so. Link? Both beards and the short skirts. I think it's about showing off like your physical attributes. Like growing a beard is a big sort of like, hey, I'm a man.
Self-expression sort of thing.
Look at my masculinity falling out my face.
I have to say that as a man with a beard, it's laziness on my part. It's just, I get up every day and I go, it's so easy not having a shave. Like, I don't look at it to be like, I'm a man, look at me with my big manly beard.
Didn't you shave yours off, though, a few months ago?
No.
Or about a year ago? Nope. Have I made that up?
Do you know what's really interesting? I was considering shaving it off the other day. I was thinking about, I had a brief thought about whether or not, and I've not had a clean shaven face in about 15 years.
Oh right, I don't think I'd like you without a beard. It suits you, it fits. But that thing about control and self-expression, and I suppose if the economy's gone to shit, then what can you control? You can control the length of your skirt, or
it might be about control. It might be about like sexual signaling, basically.
Could it not be just to feel good?
It could just be that. This is the thing. A lot of the problem with like studying humans is like getting down to the like cause and effect and figuring out what direction relationships go in and stuff like that is really, really difficult.
How long does it take for the economy to go bad before we see short skirts? Because I feel like the economy's tanked during the pandemic and I haven't seen like a rise of mini skirts during COVID-19. Do you know what I mean?
I've seen some very short shorts recently.
I've seen some very short shorts recently, to be fair.
Yeah.
And I don't like that look because ass tends to spill out.
like bottom
ass.
Yeah.
So ass tends to spill out of the bottom. And I'm like, I feel a bit like, I don't know where to look here. This is awful. Do you know what I mean?
I like to have something less the imagination.
Do you?
To a degree, yeah.
What do you look at on a woman and go, that's sexy?
Oh, she hasn't got a beard.
Do you know what I really find attractive? Gym leggings.
Yeah, in certain cases. What I do like is, and I mentioned it earlier, is that it's the way someone carries themselves, the way they act, the way they move, the way they talk, the way they communicate. And someone could have a beautiful face, but if they don't make eye contact with you, it's very difficult to, find it in any way attractive.
It sounds like an indie song from like the mid-2000s. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like the Kooks.
It does sound a bit like that. If I can make some of those bits rhyme, would would be in, wouldn't we? It's just about, it's not what you look like, it's how you carry yourself.
Honestly, that fucking, I'd buy that.
That didn't sound indie though.
You used to be in a band, didn't you?
Yeah, I was back in the day, like a metal band, yeah.
What was it called again?
DBH we were called.
DBH?
We were like death metal, yeah.
What, like fucking Pantera?
We toured with Napalm Death 3 times, yes. We were like that sort of stuff, yeah.
Oh,
Proper full on, like...
So my other half has a brother who is 10 years old, and he's currently into Pantera.
Oh, yeah.
Age 10.
Great band.
But he was calling it Pantera.
Pantera?
How cute is that?
Pantera.
Him and his little friends listen to Pantera.
You know the advert for, was it Nike or was it Reebok? It was Reebok, the Belly's Gonna Get You advert.
Belly's... Oh, yeah, it was Reebok, yeah.
That was our singer singing that.
Belly's gonna get you.
That's the
Belly,
kind
belly,
of...
belly.
Yeah. We
Really?
didn't sing about bellies. But we sang, that was his vocal style to give you an indication of the
Really?
the subgenre we were
What did you
playing.
play then? Bass, was
Bass
it?
guitar, yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. Standing at the back, just, chilling out.
Did you make dollar from that?
Did we bollocks? No. We had this running joke. We got a record deal and we got signed and we went on tour. We're on Top of the Pops 2. We were number 9 in the indie chart one week. Our album did really well. We were on the front cover of Kerrang. We were on £30 a week, and our joke was that we were going to call our second album Less Than Dole, because Dole was £37 a week. We were getting £30 a week, living with our mums.
That would be quite good, that. What happened to you in the end?
The label got bought by a dance label. We got dropped, and then our manager stole all the money.
Really?
And then I got a job in NatWest. it was soul destroying at the time, but like,
do you know
character
what?
building.
When your label got bought by a dance company, it must have been like, when a new manager comes into a football club
It was
and
exactly
the footballer's
like
like,
that.
yeah, I'm leaving it now.
They're
He
not
don't
gonna
fancy me.
Yeah.
He don't fancy me.
When Big Sam comes in and you're like a progressive forward-thinking player, yeah. It was
Yeah,
just-
number 10 that doesn't track back and you're only
Yeah.
5'6".
Yeah, no
right
chance.
now, I'm fucked.
Yeah, better speak to me agent.
I'm officially lost.
Football. We just, for a small amount of time, we wanted you to feel like the least smart person in the conversation, and so
Yeah,
we just
fair enough.
we
Achieved.
just flipped it. Is there any way that we can override facial bias, or is it just something that we just live with forever?
I think it's something we just live with forever. So even if you warn people beforehand, like you're going to make judgments based on a person's appearance, people take that information and go, yeah, all right. And nothing will change. Like when the results were coming in from my experiment, I could see which face my participants had seen and whether they'd click guilty or not guilty. And every now and again, I'd see one and go, not guilty, you fucking hippie. Look at him, he clearly did it.
Really?
I'm like, I made up the crime.
Yeah.
And that person doesn't exist. But like, I just have that gut reaction of like, of course he's guilty.
Isn't it good to be aware of these things, though, these evolutionary things, these like things that are inbuilt within us? Because I think when it comes to like, because then you can try and override it, or then you can try and break that cycle, or at least try and conversationally or with personality between you and the other person, try and break through that. Because the whole thing about, I'm a big believer in we should all work together as the human race, but it's built within us to have tribes and divide, and we've got to have an opposition, because we've got to have teams. That's just within us. So it's kind of the balancing act between who we are and what we're meant to be and what we would like to be. It's kind of difficult to bridge that gap.
But if we're no good at, if our, like, these inbuilt biases, if you like, or this inbuilt reaction that we have, if it isn't actually useful, then, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I just feel like it's just this annoying thing that holds everybody back.
Yeah. Well, a lot of stuff with humans, it seems to be that, like, we have a lot of, like, quick and dirty rules and, like, tricks that go on in our heads. And sometimes they're there because having them is slightly less bad than not having them. So,
Okay.
like, it...
For survival reasons, you mean?
Yeah, so it's almost like a fire alarm. Like, you'd rather have a fire alarm that goes off when
One in
you
10.
cook some toast,
All right, yeah.
Then
rather
doesn't go
than
off at all.
never goes off. Like, even if there's a big fire. And, like, a lot of the way
Piss
we...
me off, though. It'd fucking piss
It
me
is
off.
fucking annoying, but it's the one that's going to save your life.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be thinking about that at the time. I would not be thinking about that at the time, making some toast, having to get the fucking broom. Oh, mate.
But our brains kind of work like that. It's like, what is the thing that's gonna, or animals work like that. It's like, what's the thing that kept the animal alive? Well, that's the thing that survives and propagates.
So it's better to judge everyone, even if it's probably all incorrect, than never judge anyone and get yourself into a...
Better to be wrong and alive.
Yeah.
Yes, like better in like the survival sense, yes. Better as a person.
You know, when
Different thing.
we have all these, so, you know, these agreeable, not agreeable, you know, masculine, feminine, whatever, what happens when you factor race into that? So what happens when, I mean, have you done the study where you take a agreeable, effeminate, like, you know, like black face, and then put it against like somebody who's very white, and then does that matter if the person themselves is of the same ethnicity who's judging it?
I've not done those studies, and I've not looked personally much at racial biases and how they work, but I've read a couple of papers, and it is not pleasant reading.
No, I imagine.
So there was one paper that really stuck with me, which the way they phrased it was that the more stereotypically black a person looks who's been accused of a crime, the more likely they'll get the death penalty rather than life.
Oh.
That's all it was.
Let's
like,
say stereotypically black.
I don't quite know what, like, they didn't go into detail on what they meant by that, so I'm still not entirely sure what that meant.
There's a book
but
I
I
read.
think possibly, like, just generally being a darker skinned black person will result in getting the fucking death penalty.
Yeah, it's horrendous,
like,
isn't
it
it?
is
Horrendous.
fucked up.
There's a book I read that, certainly in America, it said that black Americans are more likely to negatively judge black Americans than white Americans due to the reasoning they were putting forward was due to all the negative news coverage over the last, 100 years. So even black people have been conditioned to, you'd have to fact check this, but I remember reading it in a book and it was, they've been conditioned to even negatively judge.
But
you get that with like a lot of stuff. So like you get internalized racism and you get internalized misogyny, where women will have like very poor views of other women because of the information that they've been fed. Like they'll believe that women are less intelligent and less competent and less whatever. And yeah, it happens with race as well.
I mean, do you know, you might not know, but does the race aspect override the facial aspect?
That I don't know. I really don't know.
Because I wonder which is stronger. Like,
Yeah.
you'd imagine it'd be race, wouldn't you?
I really don't know. I think it, to an
be
extent, it
interesting.
might depend who you're asking.
But then you get the
it would be
people
interesting.
who try and override, they might have a deep racial bias within them, but that's within the gut, but their liberal left-leaning brain is trying to override this horrible racism that's deep within them, so they go the other way.
Yeah.
And we've all met people like that in conversation. They're trying to describe someone. They don't want to use the word black. So they're going, the guy with the watch. What guy with the watch? You just say he's black. You can describe someone that they're black if they're the only black person in the room, because then it kind of narrows it down.
Or is this like the sort of people that go, I don't see colour?
Yeah.
And it's like...
But it is useful for describing someone in a nice way when you're just trying to tell me who it was who
It's also kind of important for understanding structural racism and microaggressions. Like, if you don't see race, you don't see the prejudices people face because of the race they are. Like,
Yeah, I always think that when people say, I don't see race, it's like you're just trying to get rid of something because it makes you feel uncomfortable. Like when a black guy looks in the mirror, you see a black person and you should be proud that you see that in the mirror. They don't not see the colour of their skin because you're faced with that reality every day. Do you know what I mean? So for you to go, well, I don't see race, it's like a weird privileged angle to come at it. Like, well, yeah, you don't have to. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, there's an element of that, but like I think the main argument against it is that like if you say you don't see race, then you can't really see racism, can you?
Yeah. I'm just trying not to get cancelled right now. Anyway, next week we've got Andrew Lawrence.
Oh, that'd be exciting.
He's going to tell us why we were wrong. So before we go, because we're going to go record Pigoted Extra now, which is something that is specifically for our Patreons. It's an extra episode. They get extra content. And if you want to sign up to become a Patreon, you can. You go to patreon.com/Pigoted and you can sign up from just £3 a month and you get loads of stuff like Pigoted Extra, early release, access to Discord servers, loads and loads of stuff. But before we go and wrap it up on this week's episode, is there anything you want to plug, Kat?
So one of the things that I do in my spare time is I'm a member of the Merseyside Skeptic Society, and we hopefully, once things go back to normal-ish, we'll be meeting up twice a month. Once a month will be for like interesting lectures from interesting people. And the other meeting is just for social events. Also part of Skeptics in the Pub Online, which is interesting talks from interesting people, but via the internet, so you don't have to leave the house. So there's that.
I'm definitely going to come to one of those Merseyside Skeptic things because I keep stealing their guests and I feel like I need to come and apologise and buy everyone a drink. What do you want to plug, Mr. Avery?
I want to plug my arsehole with one of Taylor's toys. Please. But before that happens, can I plug my podcast, which is called Fix the World, which is me and another comedian, Katie Tracy, and we pick a problem every week and we try and fix it. We've not actually fixed anything so far, but it's fun to try. So you can find that on all the podcasts.
What sort of problems are you pitching? Because if you're pitching like, we're going to solve the problem of poverty, then I can understand why you haven't fixed that. But if it's like, there's a tap in the spare room.
Yeah, we've not gone so micro level. We've tried some big, we tried to fix politicians the other week and it was just impossible to do in a 29-minute podcast episode. So we've done stuff like space travel. We fixed that this week. We're going to be fixing nudity. You know, all some things that aren't even problems, but we're just trying to like look at what it is and how we can make it better, make the world a better place.
I feel like we should fix politicians in Pigoted Extra. That's going to be a great little fucking chat.
I'd love to fix them by just landing them up against the wall and shooting them, to be honest. Can I also plug me tour as well?
Yes.
I've got some tour dates left over from 2020 that are happening this year, and then I've got a brand new tour for 2022 that'll go on sale in about a month. So go on my website, samaverycomedy.com, and you can sign up to the mailing list.
Brill! And if you're enjoying this, then please subscribe, give it a rating in whatever podcast platform you are listening to, and we will see you again next week. Thank you for listening. Goodbye! This episode of Pigoted is sponsored by Taylor's Toys. Taylor's Toys are a sex toy company. They specialise in doing high-quality sex toys that won't fall apart after 1 or 2 uses. Head over to taylorstoys.co.uk, check out the amazing range that they've got on offer, and if you use the discount code PIGOTED at checkout, you get yourself 10% off on all products. Taylor's Toys. Spice things up in the bedroom. Thank me later.